Torin wiped his sweat-filled brow and shook his head.
Even so, what other choice do we have? They must have hundreds of warriors out there, and half our town guards are already dead.
Choice? I'll tell you what choice we have. We either die like meek little fools, or we fight for as long as possible. We honor House Hayfield to the bitter end, and we slay as many of those purple-cloaked ogres as possible. Won over by old Billy's speech, the few remaining guards rushed to the back storeroom in the manor and returned moments later with a handful of spears and knives. Torin slowly slinked away and hid behind an armchair as old Billy passed out the weapons quickly. There isn't enough to go around, but take whatever you can find and bash their heads in with it. They'd only work us to the bone to fill their coffers anyway, if they let us live, so let's not go out without a fight. For House Hayfield and for Dunshire!
For House Hayfield and for Dunshire!
Outside the manor, Remus Raven's mood soured at the sounds of defiant cheers. He stood amongst the blaze of a dozen burning buildings and nodded at Colm to execute their prisoners. The sounds of screaming wafted up to old Billy and the remaining holdouts as Remus spoke once more. "This is your last warning. House Raven commands you to come out now, or your fate will be the same as your rebellious lord." After a moment of silence, old Billy's voice echoed out through a window. "House Raven, go ahead and yourself. We know your words are full of lies. If you want us, come and get us." Remus snarled at old Billy's voice. "So be it. Chop them into pieces, Elder Colm." Remus turned to Elder Colm, who raised his sword and beckoned 150 warriors to charge up the hill towards the Hayfield manor. "Charge! Break into the manor and kill them all!" The host of purple-colored warriors instantly spread out in all directions as they screamed and charged up the hill toward the manor. A dozen warriors stopped halfway up and began to fire arrows and hurl spears into the windows. Inside the manor, Billy directed the fighting-aged civilians and remaining house guards. "Hurry! Get away from the windows! Light the lanterns and barricade the doors quickly! Send the young and the elderly down into the Hayfield family crypt." Despite their initial surprise, the people of Dunshire moved quickly under old Billy's commands. In a matter of moments, most of the furniture had been built up in front of the doors, and the non-combatants had fled down into the crypt. As the host of House Raven warriors met the outer heavy door, they pressed with all their might against it, but it would not budge. The few warriors who tried to climb in through the windows were met with a wall of spears and soon retreated. "Huh! Enough games! Clear aside! Must I do everything myself?" Remus Raven strode up the hill beside Elder Colm, and together, the two master-level spiritual warriors channeled their energy into their sword blades. In 2 strikes, Remus and Colm were able to cut the door down and blast it out of the way. As the House Raven warriors screamed and poured inside over the barricades, they were met with a barrage of spears that old Billy and the townsfolk hurled at them. Dozens fell to the spears, and a few heavy items dropped on top of them from the second floor of the manor. Still, the onslaught continued as the surviving warriors leaped over the bodies of their comrades and attacked. The House Raven warriors struck first against the Hayfield family guards, who were extremely well-trained and had large defensive shields. As the guards braced their shields against the enemy, the townsfolk of Dunshire stood in the second line of defense and jabbed with their spears wildly over the shoulders of the guards. Although their one-on-one spiritual fighting levels were lower than the House Raven warriors, their formation allowed the people of Dunshire to hold against the wild, disorganized charge of their attackers. The fight devolved into a chaotic mass of fighting, cursing, yelling, and bloodshed as the main living room of the Hayfield manor was ripped to shreds. Hundreds of bodies pushed against one another, and in such close quarters, it was difficult for both sides to land killing blows. For a moment, at least, the battle was a stalemate. However, the Hayfield guards were few in number, and they could only hold against the overwhelming enemy horde for a short period of time. After all, there were many apprentice-level spiritual warriors in House Raven, and after the initial chaos, they began to use their strength to their advantage. After a few moments passed, the tide began to turn more heavily in House Raven's favor, as Elder Colm and Remus Raven himself joined the fighting. As master-level warriors, anyone who crossed their path met a swift and brutal end. As Remus cut down a Hayfield family guard, he snarled gleefully, "Ha ha 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 ha! Tonight, House Hayfield shall lose its house." After taking a cut to the hip, old Billy limped out of the front lines and leaned against a wall to catch his breath. All around him, townsfolk were breaking formation and being slaughtered. A wounded guard approached old Billy and pointed out through a window where a thick cloud of smoke gradually rose.
"Old Billy, look! The medicine garden is on fire!"
"Never mind that for now. This is bad. We can't hold here any longer. Retreat back to the Hayfield family crypt. We'll shut the doors on them once more and stand to the last inside the basement. Retreat and reform the line in the crypt. We shall hold as long as possible, in case Lord Olrich or the Duke's men can somehow reach us in time." As old Billy fought his way back onto the stone steps that lead down to the crypt, he couldn't help but see how diminished their forces were. Although they'd killed off many House Raven warriors, dozens of townfolk lay dead or dying on the ground. Old Billy grimaced as he slew one final warrior before retreating down the steps into the crypt and closing the metal door shut, locking it behind him. He'd been the last to retreat into the cave beneath the manor, and now all was quiet apart from the quiet moans of the young, fearful children. Old Billy couldn't help but curse Lord Olrich and Nathan for not being there. Whether they were dead or not, their presence could have made a difference. As House Raven warriors jeered and pounded at the metal door, old Billy patched up his bloody hip and knew that they only had a few more minutes to wait before the onslaught would continue. As old Billy looked into the horrified faces of the people he commanded, he could only pray quietly to the heavens that they might somehow be saved. "Damn it! We're too late to stop it!" Lord Ulrich snarled at the sight of the burning medicine garden as he, Nathan, and the Grahams rode into the outskirts of town. They'd all ridden without stopping through the night, only to find their homes ablaze. The screams of the terrorized townsfolk and the clangs of swords shook the sky as the four of them dismounted and drew their swords. Nathan sighed as he surveyed the carnage and coldly gave out orders. "Father, I sense that a small wave of House Clay warriors and a high-level House Raven apprentice are over at the medicine garden. Take Podrick and Baylor and do your best to fight them off." "What of the main attack on our manor and the High Lord Raven?" "Leave all that to me, and worry not. Remus Raven will be mine." Lord Olrich nodded and led the Grahams off towards the medicinal garden. Nathan Hayfield grimaced at the blood-soaked manor as he quickly walked up the hill towards his childhood home. House Raven had harmed his family beyond all sense, and with this latest plot, Nathan knew that he would leave no Raven warrior alive. Finally, it was time for him to end things between them once and for all.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.